All three were in for a lot of trouble. The kidnapper of the beautiful maiden, his noble friend, and the young lady herself, who had encouraged the audacious act. They all fell to their knees before the Queen of France, begging for forgiveness. Since Anne of Austria had inadvertently provoked the situation, the bold youths decided not to be punished. However, when the Queen looked into the eyes of the scandal's instigator, Angelique de Montmorency Boutville, the Spanish beauty shuddered. No matter how demure she tried to appear, there was no remorse in her. It was impossible not to fall in love with her, fervently wrote her contemporary, Bussy Rabutin, about Angelique. She was born in Paris in the 17th century into a family renowned throughout Europe, the Montmorencys. Proud members of this lineage had held high offices as constables for centuries, were related to kings, and were considered incredibly, almost fabulously wealthy. Nature had only taken a break with Angelique's father. A brilliant young man with all paths open to him chose the life of an eternal duelist. Ultimately, he was executed on the place to grieve for violating the edict against dueling. Even his illustrious relatives could not save him. Little Angelique was still in her cradle. Her mother tried to tame her daughter's fiery nature. After her husband's death, she firmly understood that no matter how famous their house was, they needed to be more modest. This was the surest path to survival. But the time came to present her daughter at court, and Angelique was taken to Paris. There, she caused a true sensation. The 17-year-old Mademoiselle de Boutville was unanimously declared the most beautiful woman in fashionable France. Even the usually reserved queen's confidant, Madame de Motteville, wrote in her memoirs, "She is beautiful, ambitious, and bold, and is capable of anything to satisfy her passion." Among the dozens of suitors vying for her attention, Angelique chose Gaspard de Coligny, the great-grandson of the famous admiral. He was not just an elegant courtier but also a brave man. Having participated in many battles, the 30 Years' War was ongoing, and was the best friend of the royal prince, Louis de Condé. All of this gave Gaspard hope that Angelique's family would warmly accept him, and he asked for her hand in marriage. But the beauty's mother refused. While Coligny belonged to a noble family, princes were also courting Angelique. So why rush? Gaspard's father returned with a renewed proposal. "Have mercy, the young ones love each other." But even then, he received a no. There was an attempt to appeal to the queen. Angelique's mother pleaded with Anne of Austria not to allow the marriage, while Gaspard's father demanded the opposite. The French queen responded evasively, unwilling to intervene in this conflict. "No obstacles," decided the lovesick Gaspard de Coligny, and together with his best friend, he devised a plan to kidnap Angelique. The future bride sparkled as brightly as the diamonds on her neck. Everything went smoothly, and the girl was abducted from her home right on schedule. In the 17th century, kidnappers in France faced the death penalty. So, after catching their breath and weathering the storm, the lovers and their accomplice threw themselves at the queen's feet. She was taken aback. Execute these? The son of a prince and the son of a marshal? Send Boutville to a convent? And of Austria rejected such ideas. Gaspard was sternly ordered to marry. After all, they couldn't jeopardize the honor of the young mademoiselle. They were all scolded and then sent on their way. The young couple went to the altar. Less than a year later, Gaspard's father passed away, and the newlyweds assumed the title of Dukes of Chatillon. But alas, their passion was short-lived. Not long after, Angelique was already casting her eyes on Prince Condé, while the Duke of Nemours was persistently courting her. It was no wonder. She was in the prime of her beauty. Another admirer was none other than King Louis XIV himself. The boy was only 10, but he literally devoured Mademoiselle de Chatillon with his gaze whenever she was nearby. At first, the court chuckled, but the king remained intrigued. Tragically, Angelique's husband was killed during the siege of Charenton. The Duchess was pregnant and wasn't informed of the news right away. Their only child was born after Gaspard's death. Contrary to expectations, Angelique mourned deeply. She was utterly crushed. During the Civil War, Angelique sided with the rebels fighting against the queen and the cardinal. The princes even made her their negotiator. It was Madame de Chatillon who went to negotiate with Mazarin. When the war ended in defeat for the Frondeurs, the Duchess was harshly ordered to retreat to her estates. She was forbidden to appear in Paris. When she attempted to protest, she was threatened with the Bastille. Allegedly, one of the interrogated Frondeurs confessed that Angelique had paid him to poison the cardinal. In Marly, where Angelique now resided, the heir to the English throne, also in exile, stayed for a time. According to the Duchess, though unfortunately unverified, he even proposed to her. However, she never became the Queen of England. It is said that malicious gossip about the young woman's flirtatious nature got in the way. Gradually, the participants of the uprising received pardons and returned to court. Angelique was also honored with such a privilege and even remarried, this time to Duke Christian of Mecklenburg-Schwerin. During the Dutch War, while her husband fought, the beauty served as regent in Schwerin, but she didn't remain faithful. She became infatuated with a young officer. Upon discovering this, the Duke imprisoned his wife, and it took intervention from the King of France to secure her release. After this latest scandal in her life, she returned to her homeland. For nearly another decade, Angelique de Montmorency Boutville carried out numerous diplomatic missions for the French king in Germany, becoming a true expert on German politics. However, the poison affair, involving her brother, weakened her influence at court, and she turned her attention to arranging marriages for her relatives and collecting works of art. She passed away at the end of the 17th century, and contemporaries believed she remained a beauty until her last day. Her son died much earlier, and she had no other children. Her vast fortune was divided among her beloved nephews.